Well, Jamie, thank you for joining me. First and foremost, congratulations on the new role and welcome to Falkirk. How does it feel?
Thank you, Lewis. It's a real privilege to be here. I'm absolutely delighted to be given the opportunity and really excited about the future. Aware of the challenges that we face, and and there are some, but also really excited about what we can do.
You started in the post last Friday, so how have the first few days of your new role gone?
Enjoyed them, I must say. I've had a very warm welcome from the board, from the staff. I knew quite a lot of the staff already, which was really made it a little bit easier to come in and say hello, and also the supporters. I've had the opportunity to speak to quite a lot of supporters so far, so it's been a really warm welcome. It obviously helps that there was 3 points and a really pleasing performance on Saturday. So enjoyed the first few days and already feeling quite settled.
There's been a lot of talk from the fans in terms of recent changes at the club, in terms of structure. So they knew, I think, there was a gap in the commercial space and also in the kind of overall management of the club. So for the fans who may not be overly familiar with the chief executive role, what will fall exactly under your remit here at the club?
Yeah, it's a good question, Lewis, and hopefully I'll provide a little bit of insight here. So I think a lot of fans are aware that the club lost 2 key members of staff within a fairly short period of time. Both Alex and Kieran were excellent in their time here and were very well respected and well liked amongst probably all Falkirk supporters as well as partners. So I think that the opportunity for the club to have a slight restructure was there, and clearly there a bit of work has went into the football side with a sporting director relatively recently, and they felt it was an opportunity to bring in a chief executive. So within the role, commercial will certainly be a big part. There is a gap to fill there in terms of the club must continue to do its best to bring in money to allow the club to grow and prosper and be the very best club it can be. So commercial will be important, and that includes all aspects of commercial. There's also a day-to-day staff management of all the non-playing staff within the building, the non-football staff. So that's a key role when I look forward. And on top of that, there's other parts that are really important. So communications. We're sitting here, doing an interview for Falkirk TV. All parts of communication and media will fall under my remit, as well as the kind of wider infrastructure in terms of the building, the facility, and how we manage the overall space that we have and facility we have. But clearly, I'm fortunate to have a really good team of people here already, and what I'll hopefully try and do is support them, get to work with them and enjoy working with them, and be charged with the responsibility of driving what will be a vision for the club that the board have already set out, and the strategy for the club. By doing that, and that responsibility will fall on me, hopefully we can, the club can strive to be the very best it can. From a footballing point of view, we've got Gary Holt leading the football department, and where I'll hopefully add value is more on a strategic level, working with Gary and working with the board from a strategic level of football, not on the day-to-day side, and implement a football strategy longer term that Gary's already started to work very hard towards. So all parts of the club, but with a focus mostly on the non-playing part.
You mentioned at a couple of points there, Jamie, strategy and objectives. I know it's perhaps too early to say this, but the obvious question, can you give the fans any background in terms of what some of the kind of longer term strategy and objective is for the club?
Yes. First of all, just to be really clear, it certainly won't be my strategy. It has to be our strategy as a club, our vision as a club. The board have worked hard over a period of time now to start to put together a vision that they believe will excite the Falkirk fans and the town. So that's been developed and is certainly one that the starting point and the foundation's been laid for that. Underneath the vision will therefore come the strategy. So it's all very well having a vision for the club, which is to be the very best we can be, to compete and to eventually compete back at the highest level of Scottish football, which is where we believe the club can get to, but also to have the best and most well managed club on and off the park. So that ambition, that vision is there, and I think all Falkirk fans will share that, to give the supporters and the town a team to be proud of again. But underneath that needs to sit a strategy, because without a strategy, a vision is nothing. And that strategy will cover everything from a footballing strategy to a communication strategy, a community strategy and a commercial strategy. And all of that together, working with the team, is where hopefully we will go and achieve the long-term vision and aim, which is to get Falkirk to the place where every one of us believes it can perform on and off the park.
The fans will realise that there's been a lot of change at the club over the summer and within the last year. I mean, if we look back to the start of the year, we have on the footballing side what the fans will see. They'll see a new head coach, a new assistant manager, a whole new squad of players, a new sporting director, and being lucky, some of the volunteers behind the scenes, we see that we have new faces in commercial and retail and all the rest of it. How are all the changes bedding in, and what, from your perspective, is the atmosphere like from coming into the club?
I've been really pleased with the environment, with the atmosphere, as you've asked there. There's an optimism, a positivity around the place, both in the football and the non-footballing side. Obviously, with change comes, at times it can become where people maybe have a little bit of concerns or are unsure about the future if there's quite a high turnover, both in the playing side and in the non-playing side, which there has been at this club. But I feel that given where the club has been over recent years, that's understandable, because there is there'll be a lot of people out there who do feel overall that the club has maybe let them down a little bit over a long period of time. But what we're hopefully doing now, and I really do believe it is, the foundations are there, is there's a lot of good work going on now. The football side, I think everybody's aware that there's been big change there in terms of the appointment of the first ever sporting director. As you say, more or less a new team, a team of a young team, I think an energetic team, I think a hungry team. I think that's already apparent from the games that have been played, and speaking to supporters, that's something that supporters share. Behind the scenes, we've got Sammy, which I'm sure is a name that a lot of Falkirk fans are delighted to see it involved back at the club. What I'll hopefully do is support Sammy and the rest of the staff to add value elsewhere. But you're right, there's a lot of change, but I think there's a real optimism now, and also coming down from the board, we have got a plan for the future of this club, and that's maybe something that wasn't in place 3, 4, 5 years ago, which is in place now, and that's very important that we have a plan, a strategy.
Obviously, it's not a completely new atmosphere to you here at the club. Obviously, you're a local lad over from Stenhousemuir, and you were involved for quite a while as well in the Falkirk Academy from memory in the foundation. Can you tell the fans a little bit about your own journey to get to this point? Because some of them might not know too much about your background.
Yeah, of course. So I have lived my whole life, 34 years in the Falkirk area, and it's where I plan to spend the rest of my life. It's a place. Falkirk is where I've grown up. So in terms of career-wise, I went to Stirling University. I've done sports management at Stirling University, and I set out on a coaching route as well. So I've actually coached for 16 years, which brings me, I'll come back to the academy in a minute. I was given the opportunity to work in the Stenhousemuir Academy when I was 21, 22, and then lead the Stenhousemuir community programme, which is a long time ago now, it feels. From there I progressed into head of sport at Larbert High School, which was a different role, non-footballing role as such, but involved in community sport, which is something I'm really passionate about. And then I was given the chance to go to the Forth Valley Football Academy, which was, for those I'm sure most will be aware, but was Falkirk and Stenhousemuir's joint venture academy with the Scottish FA. And that was a privilege to work at that academy. I thoroughly enjoyed my 5 years there. Mm-hmm. Once the academy ended, I was then given an opportunity to be the chief executive of Stenhousemuir, which for the last 3.5 years is a role that I thoroughly enjoyed, really enjoyed being part of the club. And I'm proud of what we achieved there. A lot of real progress for the club over the last 3.5 years, and then I was delighted to be asked to come to Falkirk and be the chief executive of Falkirk.
You mentioned Stenhousemuir there, and obviously we know you had a very good role at Stenhousemuir. It must have been a difficult decision to move on. So with that in mind, what was it that appealed to you about this role at Falkirk and made you take the challenge on?
Yes, it was a difficult decision. I built up a really strong relationship with a lot of people at Stenhousemuir, and I had worked very hard over a long time to achieve success on and off the park. Didn't quite get as much success on the park as we'd have liked, but certainly there was a I've left the club in a very. But when Falkirk got in touch, there's no doubt that I was excited by the prospect, and what was really important to me was to understand where the club was going. I've witnessed where the club has been, and I've seen the good times that. In my lifetime, there's been a few real highs in Falkirk, of course, as a club, and I've seen them firsthand. But I've also seen the decline over the last 4, 5, 6 years. Which what was so important to me was when I first met with the chairman and the board of directors over a few different conversations, was understanding where the club was going now. No, not to dwell on the past, not to look at what's gone before, but to say, well, what is the vision and what is the plans? What are the plans for this football club? Because the club has unbelievable potential. So to answer your question, I would say the potential of the club, the opportunity to be part of Falkirk Football Club and be part of this journey, which will hopefully take the club back in the right direction and put the club back to where we know it can be, but also to give the town a club to be proud of again. That really excites me.
One of the things you mentioned in both of the last couple of answers there, Jamie, was something that, I'll be honest, as a Falkirk fan, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine, and that was the academy, and rather the closure. Now, you said we can't dwell on the past. I think that's right, but can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on restarting the academy? And we've heard in recent days from Ian Fergus, the new head of youth here at the club, and the kind of good work that we hope that he's going to take us forward with.
Yeah, personally, I'm absolutely delighted that that the club are going to have now put the foundations in place for a new academy, a new pathway for young players to progress into the Falkirk first team. I won't dwell on the past, but certainly it's one that will always be a sore point for me. I was immensely proud to be part of the academy previously, and I think, I knew at the time it was a mistake, and I think a lot of Falkirk fans probably felt it was a mistake at the time. But the errors of the past are ones that we can't go back and change. Yep. What we can do now is, and this is where the board deserve a lot of credit, is the vision for the future is this club needs to have a pathway for young players to progress in its first team. It's been part of the Falkirk identity for a long, long time. Supporters expect it. Supporters love seeing young players progress through. So while we can't get back to where we were immediately, we might never get back to where we were, what we can do is put together a structure that gives young players a chance to progress into the first team and make it the very best structure and pathway possible. So I think it's a huge step for the club, for the future of the club. And I think if you asked every Falkirk fan, what is your vision for what Falkirk should be as a club? Within that vision, they would say young players playing in the first team. That's what gets fans excited. They'll love to see a young player go out there and perform wearing the Falkirk jersey. And now that we've started that, while it will take a bit of time to really, really see the fruits of that, I think credit goes to Gary and to Ian for getting these two squads assembled in a short space of time and getting them out there, training and playing for Falkirk. And the future of that is something that I think we can all be excited about.
Is it safe to say then from what you said that while it's a really good start and it's very much a positive, that there needs to be just perhaps a little bit of patience as well, because it can take many cycles to generate the next Sibbald or Fulton or whoever it happens to be?
Yeah, that's the nature of youth development. I spent 16 years coaching, 12 of which was involved in elite development from academy perspective and performance school, Scottish Youth Performance School perspective. So there is a need for people to understand that process can be a longer process. However, Falkirk in the past have also managed to take a young player who might have dropped out of an academy at 16 or 17 and within a 2 or 3 year period turn them into a first team player, a regular first team player. So it is realistic that within 2 or 3 years we might be able to have a player out there who has had 1 or 2 years within our development squads, whether it's 16s, 18s. So I think a patience is required, but at the same time we can rightly be optimistic about that. One of the young players that signed last week, Paul McLaren, actually was part of the academy. I was delighted to see him, and he came through all the way through from under 9s out there all the way through, and is now re-signed for the club. And that type of story, that type of opportunity for me is something that, you know, is one I'm looking to see what the future holds for him, as well as the rest of the players, obviously. But yeah, let's not expect too much too soon. And if we do get a player within the next couple of years, then that's a fantastic bonus.
It's obviously early days in this new role for you, Jamie, but you were here, as you mentioned, for the game against Peterhead at the weekend. So what did you make on the footballing side of things, of the team and the style of play, the shape, your overall impressions? But also, I believe you caught up with some fans in the South Stand bar. So not just your thoughts on the football side, what did you take away from your chats with some of the Falkirk fans?
From a footballing point of view, I think we all left, you know, having enjoyed the game. First and foremost, football is entertainment. So we want fans to be entertained when they come to the Falkirk Stadium, or if they travel, as they do in good numbers, to away games. So primarily we want attacking football. I think that was there. I think it was clear that Paul has set the team up in a way that we are expecting or hoping to see attacking football. I think that was clear on Saturday. There's an energy and a creativity about the team. We should have won the game by a few more goals. I think that's also pretty apparent from the end that it was here. But what Falkirk fans expect, in my opinion, I'll come on to the conversation with the fans in a minute, is they expect Falkirk to go out there and play attacking football, attractive, exciting football, to try and dominate the game. They won't dominate every game, but to try and dominate the ball and dominate the game. And by doing so, I think Falkirk fans will leave here more often than not happy. And certainly on Saturday, it's only one game, but that was one I really enjoyed on Saturday. I'm looking forward to tonight and also Saturday away at Airdrie. With regards to the supporters, I'm fortunate to know a lot of Falkirk fans. I've grown up in the area, as we've already touched on, and I know a lot of Falkirk fans from years ago, going to games, to through work, through football, through playing football, through lots of different ways. I know a lot of Falkirk fans. I had a lot of conversations before I even came in the door with supporters of the club, whether it be phone calls or messages, and a lot of messages of support. The South Stand bar on Saturday was really busy, which was pleasing. I wasn't quite sure what the mood would be, given that the last couple of seasons, and the last season in particular, was a disappointing one. There was a quiet optimism. And the mood in general was one that we're quite pleased to see some young, exciting players brought to the club. From what they had seen in the Premier Sports Cup, albeit it was curtailed clearly, and in the Cove away game, they were quite happy and excited. So I was really pleased with the conversations I had with the Falkirk supporters on Saturday, and that quiet optimism. While there's a bit of caution in the air as well, understandably after what's going on. But I think the majority of Falkirk fans that I've seen one or two of the games now are saying, like what I see here, and this is the type of football we expect, and we're actually now beginning to look forward to games again. So yeah, it was good. It was good to go around and speak to them.
From everything you've said, Jamie, it's quite clear you're going to be a busy man. Let's be honest, over the next coming weeks, months, years. But in terms of your immediate priorities, having spoken with the board, what can you tell the fans in terms of what your immediate short-term priorities will be?
Yeah, I would say number one, we need to make sure the commercial team, that all the good work that Kieran and Alex have done over the years, we need to make sure that we build those relationships with the partners again, because it is rebuilding them on the basis that they don't really know me yet. One or two don't really know Sammy, although they know him from his status at the club as a player. So there's a bit of working and building a relationship with our key partners and sponsors and everyone that contributes to the club from a commercial point of view. So I think that's number one, to be honest with you. Number two is that engagement with supporters, engagement with fans, rebuilding trust, rebuilding and repairing relationships, and giving the fans more information and more consistent and better communication, so that they really feel part of the club again. I think there's a bit of a bridge there that we just need to make sure we build that bridge and get them right back behind the club again. We can't expect it to happen overnight. Sure. Because they do feel let down, I think, over recent years. But the work's already gone on over the last year or so to rebuild the club again and restructure the club. And the next part is then building that relationship and trust again. The final part is to come in here and every day and support the staff. We've got some great people, both paid and volunteers, who are key parts of this football club. So it's how much can I support them? How much can we become part of one team where we're all pushing in one direction because we believe in the vision of the club and we believe in the future of the club. So I would say that would be the three priorities, certainly short term, that I'll be focusing on.
And just finally, Jamie, obviously we touched on the fact there that you had, even in your early days, the chance to chat to some of the fans over in the South Stand. If you were to leave the Falkirk fans just now with a message, what would that be?
Yeah, so I think my message would be that I do know that Falkirk fans over a period of time now have felt let down and they felt a bit frustrated at where the club has ended up or where the club finds itself. Yeah. So we understand that. We understand there's been mistakes made in the past. It is a new board. There are new people at the club, both in the staff and on the board, who are keen to make sure we turn that around. The board have worked hard over a year to start to restructure the club and create that vision that we talked about earlier on. So we are aware of what's went on in the past. We're aware that there's errors that have led the club to where it is now. But what we can say is we're working extremely hard to turn that around and to make good decisions now on and off the park to give the supporters a club to be proud of again. And I'll do everything I can every day I'm here to make sure that is what we do long term.
Well, Jimmy, we wish you every success in the new role, and for the first time, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.